Picture a crowded harbor centuries ago. Ships arrive from different coasts. Traders bargain. Sailors shout orders. Enslaved people, colonists, laborers, and local communities are forced into contact, but they do not share one language. Communication cannot wait for anyone to master a full new grammar. People begin with whatever works: borrowed words, gestures, repeated phrases, simplified patterns, and meanings negotiated on the spot. At first, this kind of speech may be limited and practical, designed for trade, work, survival, and command. But if the contact continues, and if a community begins using that speech every day, something remarkable can happen. The temporary bridge can become permanent. It can grow into a stable language of its own. A Creole language is a full language that develops from intense contact between different language communities. It often begins with a simplified contact variety, commonly called a pidgin, but it does not remain limited. Over time, it gains regular grammar, a wider vocabulary, and native speakers. That last point is crucial. A Creole is not simply a rough version of English, French, Portuguese, or any other language that contributed words to it. It is a complete system that people can use to tell stories, raise children, argue politics, express emotion, pray, joke, and think. Its origin may be unusual compared with older national languages, but its status as a language is not lesser. The difference between a pidgin and a Creole is one of the most important ideas here. A pidgin is usually nobody's first language. It is a practical tool used between groups that lack a shared mother tongue. Because it often serves narrow purposes, it may have fewer words and less grammatical detail. A Creole, by contrast, becomes the native language of children. Once children grow up speaking it naturally, the language expands into every part of life. It needs ways to talk about the past, the future, uncertainty, family, conflict, memory, humor, and imagination. Native use pushes the system beyond basic exchange and turns it into the everyday language of a community. Creole languages are often described as systematizing grammar. This means they may reduce some irregularities inherited from older languages and organize meaning through more regular patterns. Many long-established languages carry historical leftovers, strange verb forms, exceptions, unpredictable endings, and spellings that preserve the past more than the present. Creoles often form rapidly in situations where speakers need usable patterns quickly, so the new grammar may avoid many inherited complications. But regular does not mean primitive. A Creole grammar can be subtle and expressive. It may mark time, mood, completed action, ongoing action, emphasis, or condition through particles, word order, or other structures that differ from the parent languages. The vocabulary of a Creole usually comes largely from the languages present during its formation, especially the language of the most socially dominant group. Linguists often call this dominant vocabulary source the lexifier. For many Creoles known today, the lexifier is a European language such as English or French, because European colonial expansion created many of the contact situations in which Creoles developed. But the words do not simply stay unchanged. Sounds shift. Meanings change. Words are combined in new ways. Other languages in the contact environment can shape pronunciation, sentence patterns, expressions, and cultural vocabulary. So a French-based Creole is not just French with mistakes. It is a new language with its own structure. Many Creoles arose after 1500, during the age of long-distance ocean travel, expanding trade routes, colonization, and the Atlantic slave trade. These were not peaceful language classrooms. They were often brutal, unequal environments where people from many language backgrounds were forced together. On plantations, in ports, aboard ships, and in colonial settlements, communication became a necessity under pressure. People needed to work, resist, negotiate, form families, obey or challenge orders, trade goods, and build new social bonds. Creole languages therefore carry difficult histories. They are connected to displacement and domination, but also to resilience. They show how communities created stable meaning even when history had torn older worlds apart. Although European-based Creoles receive much attention, Creolization is not limited to European languages. Creoles can also be based on Arabic, Chinese, Malay, and other languages. The broader point is that Creole formation is a human response to sustained multilingual contact. It depends less on one specific continent and more on social conditions, which groups meet, who holds power, how long contact lasts, whether people are separated from their original speech communities, and whether children grow up using the new contact variety. Each Creole has its own history. There is no single recipe, but there is a recurring pattern. Contact creates a bridge, community use strengthens it, and native speakers transform it into a full language. The field that studies Creole languages is called Creolistics, or Creology, and specialists are known as Creolists. Their work is not just about counting borrowed words. They examine how grammar emerges, how children acquire language, how power affects speech, and how societies decide which languages deserve respect. Creoles are especially valuable to linguists because some formed relatively recently, making parts of their history easier to trace than languages that developed over thousands of years. They help reveal processes that affect all languages: borrowing, simplification, innovation, regularization, and identity formation. In that sense, Creoles are not strange exceptions. They are unusually visible examples of how flexible human language can be. A common misunderstanding is to treat Creoles as broken languages because of the social status of their speakers. Many Creoles developed among enslaved, colonized, or economically marginalized communities. Outsiders often confused lack of political power with lack of linguistic complexity. But linguistics does not judge a language by whether it has an army, a state academy, or a prestigious literature. A language can be unwritten, stigmatized, and excluded from schools while still having a rich and consistent grammar. When people dismiss Creoles as inferior, they are usually revealing social prejudice, not linguistic fact. The language itself is a complete tool for thought and community life. Children play a powerful role in the story of Creoles. When children grow up hearing a contact variety, they do not simply copy fragments mechanically. Human minds search for patterns. Children use language in broader and more imaginative ways than adults may have used in earlier pidgin. They need to explain causes, ask questions, describe dreams, remember events, and form relationships. Across generations, this everyday use can stabilize grammar and expand expression. This does not mean children create a language from nothing. They inherit material from the speech around them. But by using it as a first language, they help turn a practical contact code into a natural, flexible, community language. The exact number of Creole languages is difficult to know. Some are poorly documented. Some have small speaker communities. Some are treated politically as dialects rather than languages. Around 100 Creoles are often said to have arisen since 1500, but the boundary depends on definitions and evidence. Documentation matters because many Creoles face pressure from dominant national or global languages. If younger generations shift away from them, entire histories can fade. A Creole is not only a communication system. It preserves memories of migration, labor, survival, adaptation, and cultural creativity. Recognizing it can support education, identity, and dignity for the people who speak it. So the real lesson of Creole languages is that language is not pure, fixed, or owned by the powerful. It is made by people who need to communicate. A Creole may begin in a world of trade, colonization, forced movement, or multilingual contact, but it becomes a full language when a community makes it native and stable. Its vocabulary may point to dominant parent languages, yet its grammar, sounds, and meanings tell a deeper story of adaptation. Creoles challenge the idea that a legitimate language must be ancient, official, or standardized. They show that humans can build structure quickly, and that once children inherit it, communication becomes identity. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.